as much as we joke about the various services, no matter what uniform you wear, they're all battle buddies. And although Phil served in a different arena at a different time than I did, we were all battle buddies. And loss is greater when you have to say farewell to one of your own. I'm going to ask Chris to come down and to deliver the eulogy.
Thank you, Pastor Sparks. And I'd also like to thank the Navy for coming out. That was very special. When I was thinking this over, what I wanted to say about my father, the first things that came to mind was Renaissance man. And last night I looked it up in the dictionary, and there was the actual technical term going back to the Renaissance, and then there's the actual one that fit mostly. A man of varying skills and knowledge of different skills, and anyways, the term fit. If you just start professionally, he started out as an EMT. He worked his way through nursing school, graduated at Harvard College, and he had a very wonderful career as an RN where he served for 35 years. He had quite a few specialties, very diverse. His first was the emergency room. He was also part of the operating room, where he worked with a lot of heart teams. ICU is another one of his things. Mom and I were talking about this on the way up. We were trying to decide which one. We didn't really know which one we really liked. It's hard to say. I always thought it was the emergency room. It was closer to his roots, and he kind of got the thrill, the excitement out of his, as that can't be said, but I mean, it was what he was really good at. But he knew his stuff in the operating room, and he was just, all around, he was just very good at what he did. He was a certified CPR instructor. The rumor was that he was very strict, very disciplined. You know, you better, you know, it was not an easy street with him. You better follow what he did. And if you listened to what he told you, and you performed the steps like he told you, you knew CPR. That was pretty much how it was. Later on, he became a teacher. He taught EMTs. He taught at 3 different colleges. His students really loved him. He had a thing where he'd get all these classes all together, take them up to the mountains where they had a junkyard. Especially rent cars. He called it Extrication Weekend. He'd get all these specialists, these rescue specialists, to come up and give lectures on technique and just stories, just, you know, what you're going to face. And he put people through scenarios on how to rescue these people or how to get them out safely. It was just his passions. He had a lot of friendships with his students, and throughout the course of the years, we all lost touch, and everybody moves on. But those were very good years. A little bit further on into his personal life, I mean, just outside of work, he just, I guess, still within the confines of work, he's just very skilled at many things as well. A craftsman. He was very, very skilled woodworker. The latest thing, some of you might be familiar with, he built these specialty boxes and chests just from pallets, just the wood from that. I myself have a very beautiful little box, but I've seen the chest that he put together, and it was just, I couldn't figure out how to do that in my lifetime. And he just put that together like it was nothing. Little secret drawers and everything. You're like, wow, that's just amazing. But he was able to frame a house. He built his own workshop to build all this stuff. He loved building decks. Cedar and redwood were two of his favorite woods to work with. Cedar's probably his latest one, but I mean, either one. He could build anything out of just about any type of wood you could imagine. He built a greenhouse, which also leads to another skill. He had a green thumb that was just, he could plant a huge garden with just about every vegetable you can imagine, but he could also fill up a greenhouse with just beautiful flowers and ferns. I remember that greenhouse. During hot summers, it was like one of my favorite places to go into because it was just really cool, it was quiet, and just very peaceful. He was a very clever person, almost an innovator. I can never forget this heating system he did for our pool. He didn't build the engine or anything like that, but using his woodworking skills, built a frame, took some tubing, ran it up on the roof in this big old coil, and used nothing more than the pump from the pool and the sun, and hey, we had warm water. We really needed it, but it was, you would have thought of that. That's pretty, yeah. He always worked on improving himself. He was an active member of the Toastmakers? Toastmasters, thank you. He often participated, and he was very eager to go out and do a speech. Whatever he had on his mind, he was able to go out there and deliver a speech, and that was actually pretty special, you know, because this is way before the day of social media when it was just really easy to post something. He had something to say, he'd go out and say it. And generally, yeah, he was very skilled with that, very articulate. He always worked on improving his knowledge. He had a love of poetry. He could quote Longfellow. I couldn't even come close to any of this, but I mean, it was just amazing. Don Quixote, one of his favorite books. He often drew inspiration from that. Might have been inspiration for him to write his own book. Just one of the amazing feats that he was able to do. Write it and publish it. I don't know too many people have done that. He was passionate about learning another language. He swore he spoke French. He probably spoke enough of it, I don't know. But he was very, very excited about that. I'll never forget this one time when we were both living in New Orleans. I was walking to work and I just happened to come across him in the open square just with his video camera, asking people to read what it said on his shirt. It was a Tabasco shirt with the French written, "Laissez le bon temps rouler," meaning let the good times roll. I don't know, he just had this thing, people would stop and read it and just, hey, okay, have fun, Bob, I'm gonna get to work. But yeah. But you know, he loved the video camera, he loved photography. You could see his photos with his birds. Another thing that the knowledge that he developed, and it was amazing. You see the landscapes there. Between that and the video, thankfully there's not a lot of video around, but some of it was pretty amusing. But that photography was just another skill. I wish I could go more and more on into it, but you know, it was just personally, even more personally, just the things he liked to do. He was an excellent fisherman. That guy could pull a fish out of just about any body of water that you could imagine. If there's a golf pond over here, you could probably pull a fish out of there. If there is fish in there. He loved golf. He was a great skier. He introduced me to the sport. I will always be grateful for that. That was some of the best times of our life. When he'd wake me up in the morning every day for school, every now and then there'd be this, hey Chris, see our ski ranch just got hammered with snow. You say we just go out there and check that out, okay? Some wonderful afternoons skiing. He was an avid runner. I thought that painting was actually a photograph, but it's pretty close to what it was. He ran, that was from his first marathon. Another accomplishment. I'll never forget that day. I was sent out from the finish line 4 miles in to get him and bring him in and give him moral support. And I'll never forget walking up. I'm walking, I finally see him and he's struggling and he sees me. I think he was getting ready to stop and walk, but he saw me and was just like, oh gosh, I have to keep running. That was a chore. That was, you know, at the time I'm like, come on, but knowing when he went, well, I haven't known that personally, but I can only imagine just he really, really wanted to stop, but he kept on going. I'll never forget, we turned a corner and I bumped his elbow and he about lost his mind. And once again, I get it now. I think if he had his way, he would have made me go to the start and run that 20 miles and do it myself. But he finished. He finished it. And yeah, one more thing to add to the list. He was a huge sports fan. He loved his Broncos. We didn't share the same devotion there, but I'm glad they won a couple for him. Our biggest thing was baseball. We always had a common bond for it. Dodgers fans, always. No matter what our differences were, the Dodgers were that one thing we always, that was the one thing that was never going to change. Getting back to that in a second, but we always just, baseball was just that thing. We would always take drives